All right, today we're going over exactly how to perform each set to get the most amount of growth out of it. Let's get after it. Now, when it comes to the pursuit of looking like an overly muscular tool, you got one thing on your side. That's the fact that as long as you're getting enough volume for your body, your muscles have no choice. They're going to adapt and grow, but the confusion comes in when you start adding things like giant sets, supersets, or even compound sets. So let me go over my exact thought process so you can stop overthinking it and start growing. Now, the first thing I do when I ride up to a machine or exercise is think, okay, what's the most difficult way I can do this? My goal is to push myself to the limit and attempt to make it the last thing I do. Never works out that way. I'm always able to keep going, but that's the mistake a lot of people make is they base their effort on the amount of work they have left. In reality, you should be perfectly happy to get your ass kicked so bad that your workout ends right there. So for instance, on this hack squat, we already know it's a fucker-upper as is. So straight sets you push yourself to failure on, you're gonna grow. But question is, how much worse can it get? This is one of those times where I utilize drop sets just to make it unbearable. I also wouldn't lock out at the top to keep that constant tension. Which brings us to a dumbbell press. And this is where a new trainee might think, well, I'm doing drops on everything because that last one for legs was so awful, and you're not wrong. But if I've done drops recently and I can maintain a great connection on that first initial push, I'll probably do rest pause sets instead. With legs, even with that rest, your reps would go from 20 to 2, but your chest recovers a lot quicker, so you're able to get more reps under a heavier load, so it's that perfect mix of mechanical tension and metabolic stress. Now, what about hard gainers? Well, more often than not, you're just not doing enough. Most people underestimate how much volume it actually takes. And before somebody jumps in the comments and says, well, what about Dorian Yates or some professional bodybuilder? You're not him. You're an adult man with a girlish figure that needs more sets. Another rule I live by is anytime I'm getting my ass kicked on any bodyweight exercise, dips, pull-ups, instead of tucking my camel tail between my legs and doing the walk of shame over to the assistant machine, I'll opt for negatives instead. I feel like you get a lot more by fighting that eccentric as slow as you can, as many times as you can until you faceplant on the floor. Now, a lot of people argue whether or not you should pre-exhaust the muscle, but I think it's a phenomenal idea. Anytime you can make 30 pounds feel like 60 and get the same results and run less of a risk of you staring at an ass, gobble up yoga pants, and tear your tip muscle off. But question is, when? For me, it's anytime I sit down to do an exercise and I don't immediately connect right away, at least like I have in the past. So I'll pre-exhaust, develop that connection, and make sure it's not just me screwing it up, because probably is. For instance, on tricep rope extensions, normally I can roll up and have a great connection with that lateral head, but sometimes I don't. So I'll force the connection by starting out with partials at the bottom, really focusing on turning those shoulders in, pronating those palms, and driving the contraction into the lateral head. Then I'll go into the traditional sets. Now, what about overtraining? Honestly, not worried about it. And I think when you have that in the forefront of your mind, it's going to cause you to half-ass your workouts. When you change your thoughts around it from, I better not push myself too hard, otherwise I won't get a second leg day in, to, I really kicked my ass, and because of that, I get to take an extra day off, that's when you're going to really start seeing results. Which brings us to supersets, compound sets, and giant sets. When do you use them? For me personally, if I feel like a workout is just not as intense as I planned it to be, then I'll add in a compound set or a superset. More often than not, compound set, because it just makes more sense. So just 2 exercises for the same body part back to back. Now for the giant sets, that's something I plan ahead of time because it's gonna fuck up the whole workout. If you feel like you need help kicking your own ass, I'll link to the programs below. Again, they're all only 20 bucks, but most importantly, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and get after it, get growing. Talk to you soon.